Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're back in War Thunder having a look at another Summer Extreme Event vehicle, and this is the main one for the naval side of things. This is the HMS Renown. Now this is a battle cruiser which is coming in for Britain, and it's at battle rating 7.0 and also is at rank 5. This is a pretty standard battle cruiser for Britain, so a lot of heavy firepower and not necessarily a ton of survivability compared to other vehicles. The major firepower this thing has is 3 dual-mounted 15-inch guns, 2 on the front of the vessel here, and then 1 on the back. These guns are kind of interesting because they have a fire rate of 2 rounds per minute, so you're going to be waiting for 30 seconds for them to reload, and you've got to make sure that you're accurate with them at that point. I'm sure with crew skills you can make that lower, but it's still a little bit rough. The targeting speed is super slow on these things, but also at the same time, once you get the guns on target, then I think you'll be alright. Has these huge ammo elevators under the turrets as well, and also the ammunition at the bottom, making it quite vulnerable to be able to shoot, and also quite exposed away from a lot of other stuff. The fire director for the 15-inch guns, the calculation time is 18 seconds, and the fire solution update is 10, so not as great as a few, but not as bad as others. Also at the same time, that measure accuracy will increase once you get the improved rangefinder. As a secondary weapon setup, the Renown actually has quite a lot of stuff as well, starting off with these turrets here. So these are like dual-purpose 4.5-inch guns. There's 10 dual mounts of the turrets in them, a lot better than the blisters that you see on a lot of other machines. And it also has 3 octoplet or octuplet or whatever you want to call it sets of 40mm, and then also you have 20 dual mounted 20mm and 24 single mounted 20mm too. So you can see here a bunch of the 20mm in the center, then also the octuples on the different ends. So those octuples are some of my favorite ones in the show. Always nice to see these guns right here and also here. You also have the quads as well, so you have a quad 40mm on top of it, which is this one, and then you have the 2 octuples, 1, 2, and then another one on the back here. So a lot of AA defense on this thing, and a lot of dual purpose defense as well. Technically, you also have torpedoes in the center, but they're those stationary torpedoes that are very First World War-esque, and since this is a modernization of a First World War machine, I suppose it's not a surprise that they are there. It's just more a surprise that they were left there instead of, you know, kind of being removed, like a lot of them were. The armor is the interesting thing on this vehicle. So the firepower is good, the overall speed is good. Obviously it has the massive engines to keep it going with the, tons of different smoke funnels technically. The armor, the belt is incredibly thin on the vehicle, and it's 228mm across. So it only really covers where the ammo is, so anything above it. So this area just has absolutely no armor on it at all. And the only armor around the actual turrets and the ammo elevator is 152mm, with the good old Citadel, or with the good old armor of the superstructure being 16mm and the hull being 25. So piercing through this really won't be that hard to do. Also, at the same time on the turrets, you have 228mm on the front of them, and then 177 on the side. So once again, we'll just get eaten alive by some of the large vehicles that are around the place. So this armor profile does not make me happy, really. It just kind of makes me worried that this thing's going to get blasted, especially with its ammo racks. I will say its ammo racks are a lot smaller than a lot of other machines that are around the place, but you also have this big pool over here of ammunition, which is just kind of sat between the fuel tanks. So maybe because there is a lot of empty dead space in this vehicle, maybe that will kind of save it from a lot of shells. But once you hit this area here, the thing will just go pop. For those 381mm or 15-inch guns, you have access to a SAPC BC as a standard shell, so not even a HE, and it has 58.6 kilos of explosive mass, and also pens 487, 386, 188 respectively. Then at rank 1, you unlock a APC BC shell, which pens even more, so 644 millimeters, 500 to 235 respectively, so this will go through everything, and also has a TNT equivalent of 20 kilos of explosive mass. So 2 very chunky rounds, which will go through pretty much anything that we have in the game and just kind of annihilate it as it goes through. At the same time, the 114mm, which is the 4.5 inches, they have access to HE, they have access to SAP, and then also access to HETF. So no HEVT, which kind of sucks on the vehicle, but I'll take the SAP and I'll take the HE to be able to do hybrid damage to pretty much everything. You can get torpedo mode for the torpedoes if you really want, but I would actually say it's probably worth just running without the torpedoes, and then everything else is pretty standard on the vehicle. There's nothing here that really screams out that you know, you're going to have to play this differently or research it differently to anything. Doesn't have any of like those kind of extra things that some vehicle have, like no depth charges, no rockets, no missiles, you know, anything like that. It's just a bog standard battle cruiser with a lot of guns, and therefore it should be alright. It does get access to all the unicolor camos, one of the nice additions to a lot of the vehicles that we've seen, which is really cool. And there's the good old multicolor camo that people really like, so overall not too bad to see. So this vehicle is looking overall pretty good. You know, I personally am not really too happy with it being 7.0 because of, you know, the simple fact that it doesn't have as much firepower as some of the other 7.0s, and also it doesn't have, you know, as much kind of armor as a lot of 7.0s. But I suppose Naval is in one of those weird areas once again, where if it wants to kind of sort itself out, or if it wants to move vehicles about, they just have to keep adding them, and then they're going to decompress the BRs again. So a vehicle like this is not going to be, you know, the be-all and end-all meta for the game. You can see how slow these turrets are, by the way. Flipping heck. Oh, that is very slow, but with upgrades at least it should get better. But yeah, that's going to take a long time to be able to like get it ready and get it going. Jesus. Like even the back turret isn't even on yet, so that's going to take a while. But once again, once you actually hit vehicles with these guns, you should be able to do, you know, a decent amount of damage with them. You should be able to smash stuff with them, but most of the time you're going to be waiting for the reloads to see what happens with the guns. It's going to be quite, you know, I suppose it might be worth reading a book while playing this thing, kind of similar to how you see other vehicles like that American vehicle that had the ridiculous reloads in the future. But the guns can put out a lot of damage, which is incredibly important, and hopefully at the same time can survive some of the dishing out that it's also going to get going forward. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R, and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.